Hello.
Hello.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
The inside scoop is on. We have a guest, a special guest, my girlfriend today, Kornelija. Hello. Welcome
Hi.
to the podcast.
Thank you.
It's good to be back. Hello, Patch.
Hello.
Very nice.
Very nice.
So we ended last week on a topic that is actually very important to us as students, which is sleep.
Yes.
And I was talking to Patch, and he is claiming, well, not that he's claiming some sort of a controversial topic, but it's basically science, apparently, that you need to sleep 8 hours a day, because otherwise, well, you're gonna have to face
You're gonna have a bad time.
But see, no. Again, we were talking about this before the podcast. Just as always, I can sleep for 6 hours and 30 minutes, or I don't even know, 5 hours sometimes, and wake up feeling refreshed and full of energy for the whole day. How does that happen? So it's not that you're gonna have a bad time and feel like crap, but it's the long-term health effects that we're
Right.
having. Is that correct?
So it's less that I claim that it's 8 hours that we need. It is actually 7 to 9 that we're looking at here. Yeah. So let me correct myself. It's 7 hours minimum. Although this is adjusting for the natural variation that we have for each person, right? And every person doesn't have like the same sleep cycle. Yeah. So yeah, 6 hours, a bit early.
Yeah.
But 6 hours 30, it's not too far off the mark, right? Sleep. What is it anyways, right?
Oh, sleep. Oh, what a weird question. What is sleep? Kornelija, do you know what sleep is?
I mean, I was just gonna say something about the fact that you sleep like 6 hours 30, which is exactly 7 cycles.
Oh,
So you feel good because you wake up at the end of a cycle, I think.
okay. And
So-
what
Does that
would
make any sense?
what would be the 8 cycles? Or
So in reference, one sleep cycle is basically one repetition where you go through all the stages of sleep, the deepness of sleep, and at the end you'd get REM sleep, which was when you dream, right? Or usually at the end of sleep.
okay.
And usually you don't remember these dreams anyways, so like you won't remember every REM. That's why you don't get multiple dreams normally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And is that does that come in every single cycle of the sleep? So like if you have multiple cycles during the night.
Yeah, you're supposed to. And every successive cycle, this REM sleep gets more effective and it becomes longer as well.
Oh.
And that's why it's so important to get all these cycles in at once, because the effectiveness of sleep increases over time the longer you are in the state. And sleep is basically when your body's inactive, you're relaxed, and your nervous system is pretty much inactive in a sense. It's not perceiving the outside world. It's certain parts are deactivated.
Mm-hmm.
And REM sleep is when like the nervous system is being fired again to get this memory retention stuff going on. So let me explain. A nerve fire is basically it's being activated, and you've heard of like your brain like sending out electricity. Like this is the nerve fire. It's sending out a little electric shock as a signal to another part of the brain. That's what happens in REM sleep. It's these rapid fires all over the brain. You're getting all these random firings, and your eyes are twitching everywhere. You've probably heard of this before.
It's just a rapid eye movement.
yeah,
yes.
that's why it's called
Yes,
REM.
Yeah, this is where your memory is supposed to be strengthened, because it's testing all these connections. That's why you usually dream about previous events, or some current events that have happened, and nightmares. If you have nightmares related to your current situation or situations you've had in the past. it's very important for long-term memories forming, and even short-term memory.
Although I do feel like dreaming can actually mess your memories up. Like, you can start mixing reality with dreams, and in the long run, you can no longer separate which one is which.
That is true. The point is, like, you're not supposed to remember these dreams most of the time because it's just random stuff.
But you know, like this.
But if you do,
yeah, but like deja vu, how else would you explain it?
Yes.
Usually, I'd say it's like something you maybe dreamt of that's kind of similar, and then you kind of have this moment. You're like, "What the hell is going on?
Yeah.
I've been here before." So maybe it's something like that. It's like a very interesting concept.
Or it's like deja vu post the situation. Like, hey, wait, haven't I been in that situation before?
Yeah.
Right? It's because of these random firings, and maybe you associate some things in it. That's why a lot of people think like, oh, they can have premonitions and stuff. And you know, I've certainly felt like I've had them, but of course, it's probably not real.
See, I've tried remembering sleep though. Remembering dreams.
Remembering dreams?
Yeah.
Well,
like when you say you're not supposed to remember them. Well, technically, yeah. I guess that's why they're just there to occupy the mind or whatever.
If you've noticed, these dreams aren't really stored long term. So that's why after a while you forget your dream.
Yeah.
Because it's only stored short term.
Unless you're
even
doing
if it's stored.
See, unless you're doing the activities that I was doing at the time, where you are trying to note down everything you remember from the night.
Yeah, I mean,
and
if you force it into memory, then yeah, but it's
it's
not
like forcing it, but after a certain time, you develop this muscle, so to speak.
Sure, I mean,
to remember the dreams better.
Yeah, I guess it certainly could be trained. I don't see it out of the case, but if you left it as intended, as naturally done, without any outside intervention, it would naturally just degrade. I'm not sure about the case about lucid dreaming, if you've heard of it.
Yeah. That's how you train to induce yourself with a lucid dream. First of all, you just start every night waking up, not moving, because when you just move, you start forget whatever. You just wake up like, oh, okay, I just had a dream, I remember, and then you just reach for your notebook or anything and just note it down, and then you can start your morning. And this is how every time you wake up, if you remember anything, you try to best describe it in that notebook in the best detail possible, so that when you go through it, these visions come back to you, and then you basically train again, as I'm saying, the muscle of remembering dreams. And then this is how you train your mind to get a lucid dream too, because if you remember your dreams, and I guess if you can catch yourself during a dream and just be like, oh, hey, I'm dreaming. Yeah, I've had this before, and this is the best experience I've had. You can
catch yourself dreaming. I have just never really trained like changing my surroundings in it.
But like, why would you train such a thing? Why would you want to do that?
But it's
so fun.
It's supposed to be enjoyable.
You can experiment anything.
You can control yourself within the dream. Like, you can have dreams where you realize you're inside a dream, even without training it. But usually it just ends right after.
It usually ends unless you train in this. And some people say, well, you stretch your hands out, you start spinning, or do something that just stops you from waking up, basically. So that's why you would train, just so you would have prolonged experiences of unlimited potential, basically. Well, as much as your mind can think of. I think what I did in my dream was like, oh, so I'm dreaming. I basically can do whatever I want. And then my thoughts are literally just saying to me, well, you've been training on this, and you know that people usually want to fly. And I just thought about flying, and I started flying. It's a fun experience, because this is not something that you would usually experience in your daily life. And it's not a game too, where you just have such an input method of a mouse and a keyboard. This is the closest thing that we can get to actually having the real thing, because your body's trying to at least fake the signals that you're getting.
Yeah.
If you're slamming into a wall, you just feel like whatever, you feel something, because you know how sort of slamming into a wall feels like.
Yeah.
And it's the closest, the best VR we currently have, lucid dreaming.
I mean, it's such a weird thing. I feel like when you have a lucid dream, you shouldn't get a good rest after. Because I feel like your brain should be working pretty damn hard to get a lucid dream. Like when you realize you're lucid dreaming, like your brain should be working actively.
But
Isn't
most
that the
likely
case?
every night, all your brain is doing the same thing.
So do you do this every night then?
No.
Try to at least.
No. It's a rare thing.
Oh, it's a right.
It's a rare thing, and I've stopped practicing it like a year ago. But it's just what I've discovered, which is pretty nice thing.
Okay, let me get this straight first for all of our listeners. We are not experts on sleep.
Yeah.
We're not neuroscientists.
Do agree with that.
We're not training in it either.
You've seen me yawning a lot, so I may be an expert in sleep deprivation, but I'm not claiming to be an expert.
We'll cover that as well.
Yeah. But I do agree with you. We're not experts, but we're trying to learn. We're trying to see what experiences each of us had and what we feel about them. So maybe we could transition into the topic of sleep deprivation. So as we already touched on your mind sort of working a lot during a lucid dream, so it's, I guess, a question for Patch then. Do you think your brain works in the same intensity that it would during a lucid dream, or like just a normal dream? Because it seems when it's a normal dream, well, you just dream something, you don't remember, you forget about it.
I definitely feel like I'm much more passive during a non-lucid dream. Like if I'm not in control, my senses are much more dulled. I don't really feel anything. But once I'm in a dream, maybe I feel the wind. Maybe if I don't know, like I can feel the floor. If I hit a wall or something, I don't feel pain, but I do feel the wall.
Yeah. And does that suggest that your brain is working more, is doing more, or like?
I
maybe not
can't
necessarily
really quantify
actually.
that, honestly. It's.
We would have to Google on that. Yeah, we're not experts again, so. But it's nice.
I think this is the wrong thing to gauge, because we've never really done any experiments with like brain stimulation.
Yeah. Maybe the lucid dream usually. Well, okay. So my experience, lucid dreaming is best done when you're well rested. When you want to sleep for 8 hours, just set an alarm after like 7 hours. Wake up, and if you wake up in the right part of the cycle, you feel well rested, everything's okay. But if you doze off to sleep again, you may experience a lucid dream. That's usually when the lucid dreams come. It's not when you're tired as a dog after the day, you come home and you go straight to sleep. This is not when you're most likely to experience a lucid dream. You're more likely to experience it when you wake up after the night and you snooze for 15 minutes. So maybe lucid dreams do require more of our brain.
So this probably makes sense if we try to follow what we explained before in the REM. So we get longer REMs the longer we sleep, right? So perhaps this might tie into it. At least that's the hypothesis I have. And that waking up is because your body isn't ready to wake up yet. So perhaps if you're like in the middle of REM even, you'll have a splitting headache because your body isn't ready for it. So maybe you'll go back to sleep. And perhaps if you've woken up during the lighter stage of sleep, you would your body would feel tired, and then you go back to sleep, and maybe for like 5-10 minutes at most.
So let's talk about sleep deprivation then.
I feel like all of us have to say a lot about this, but like none of us want to start.
About sleep deprivation.
All right.
Well, I'm not feeling as sleepy as I did 20 minutes ago. Maybe because I'm engaged in a certain activity currently, let's say speaking, thinking, which I'm also excited about this. So I want this to happen. I want I want to be here. It's an interesting and engaging activity. And I don't really feel as sleepy anymore.
Yeah.
How does that work?
It is actually because you're stimulating more parts of the brain. if you've ever tried to stay awake for a long time, you listen to music for a long time, you try to wake yourself up by slapping yourself in the face, drinking water, splashing yourself with cold water, everything, caffeine, everything. It's not going to work. You're not being stimulated by your senses. You need to stimulate yourself through action. Stuff like talking, seeing people's faces, it's stimulating all parts of the brain, right? And especially if you're seeing, this is probably one of the most engaging things you could do when you're sleep deprived. Even though if you're like a little delirious, this is really waking you up. And that's probably why, unlike long train or long car rides, whatever travel you're going on through, a lot of people sing.
Yeah.
But I mean, you did say that you pulled an all-nighter, so you had like more than 24 hours of like awake, restless night or whatever. But it wasn't easy to like actually engage your brain into something that it just does not want to do. Like, it's hard when you're actually sleepy and you realize that, and you are kind of telling that to yourself. It's actually very, very hard to simply like try and engage your like brain into talking with someone with full attention span. So I don't know how you would have to outsmart your brain when you already know that you're tired. Like, when you're tired, it's very hard to engage because you're like psychologically just, I guess.
Yeah.
Well,
you have to get in the flow of it. Well, for my case, where I managed to stay up, it's because I was really stressed at the time, and it was compound effect with like stuff like taurine and stuff. You shouldn't be drinking that stuff. It's kind of cancerous. Like energy drinks and stuff, right? So stress does inhibit sleep as well. If you're not getting enough sleep, it's causing you stress. It's gonna be a spiral effect. So yeah, that's how I managed to do it.
I guess it is stress, because after all, how else would you stay up? What other reason would you stay up for?
Yeah.
It's usually stress. Like, it's usually because you have to pull an all-nighter to write a paper or something, to like finish a project. It's usually those. So, I mean, when you're not getting enough sleep, it's horrible. You feel like, you could have done better. Like, you could have managed your time better, but you're just in the situation which you cannot change. And that's when sleep deprivation kind of kicks in.
Yeah. And I've heard, there are differences between you just feeling bad and having health effects, maybe long-term health effects. Do you have anything to say about that? Well, if you sleep for, let's say my case again, if I sleep for 6:30 and I feel great that day, but because some other day I sleep for like 9 hours and I feel bad, so I don't see much of a pattern on when I actually feel good or when I feel bad. How do I spot these patterns, I guess? And how do I know, what my body actually wants? And is it getting these, as we were talking about, the health risks and stuff?
For me personally, I find it easier to measure because I'm always doing either martial arts, or some kind of gaming, right? So I can easily measure my cognition, my response time. If I'm feeling like I'm not performing to my utmost, I will recognize it. And especially after like over 24 hours, you'll feel like you'll no longer need to sleep. But once you start relaxing and stuff, you'll drift off. But like some effects you feel, maybe your motor control isn't as good. Maybe your leg started to shake when you didn't sleep for that long. That pain's gonna stay. Your leg's not gonna kick as well. Maybe your hands aren't, as well controlled anymore.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so that's how I measured it personally, because I'm already doing activities that require my mental stimulation, and I feel like I'm not at my top.
I feel like routine is king. If you find the right time for your sleep, you should try. In your situation, you can't really do that. But for most times, when you find the perfect spot and you know that you feel good, you should keep repeating it. Because when your body's remembering that you need to go to sleep at this time and you wake up at this time, it just, your body naturally does it. Like, it literally just, you get used to the routine, and you continuously wake up before your alarm clock, as Patch said before.
Yeah.
And just that alone. But the long-term health risks, I think they're bad, but you don't realize it. Especially when you're young, you're like keen to pull all-nighters to get your best in, you know? You want to experience the most in life. But at the end of the day, they catch on later on in your life. And I feel like when they come, you're no longer empowered to actually do anything about it.
And that's why, again, so let's do this little shameless plug. Well, it's our own podcast. We can do that. Our podcast is called The Inside Scoop. Its goal, as we were discussing earlier, is to motivate ourselves and other people to find time to research, maybe improve themselves, better themselves. Well, whatever, you can slash all these terms together. And what the main underlying wish, I guess, of mine for today is to learn how to spot these effects that actually come later in life, because, well, it's so hard to spot something that you don't see. You know, it's easy to talk about, let's say, I don't know, pollution or something where you just like throw out plastic bags, but it's harder to talk about like car fumes, you know, where you don't see how much, let's say, carbon dioxide there is in the air, but you can see how many, like, you know, plastic bags and like all the trash is like lying around everywhere. So it's easier to tell people, hey, don't throw out this physical thing out there. But then they use aerosol sprays and everything, and it's also bad. So I just feel that for me, well, I think for most people too, it's harder to spot activities that actually negatively impact your future.
Well, of course that's the case.
Well, that's the case. And that's what we're trying to spot and find. How do we actually know what the long-term effects are? Well, I mean, we can look at the studies, I guess.
Well, first of all, let me say, that's your goal, right?
Michael.
What I want to show in this inside scoop thing, right? I want you guys to get woke, like I said from last episode, right? It's not that. It's based on the insight part. It's not that I want to learn. It's not just that. But ignorance is bliss, but yet it's so dangerous at the same time. And knowing the difference is crucial to many people. I'd argue everyone. I don't want anyone to be left out in this. Information shouldn't be held against because people feel like it'll hurt them. People should know.
But isn't that what I'm saying? I want to learn. I'm not literally saying that everything I want to learn is how to, you know, cover my own butt or something. I want to like save myself from experiencing these effects. It's literally, well, getting woke is being conscious of more and more things that some people aren't. Isn't that what it is?
Yeah.
But like you okay, I guess you can reach that through like analysis, basically, because if you analyze everything that you do and how you feel, for example, you sleep this amount of time, right? How did you find the right amount of time that you sleep, and when you feel good? Through analysis. So it's like when you analyze not only how much sleep you need, but how do you feel that day specifically, like, you know, if you can focus or not. Then I guess through that's how you get woke.
I agree with you. Yeah, on the topic of sleep, my aunt once said, like, you have to sleep for 2 weeks. You go to sleep and let your body wake up. Go to sleep at the same time, let your body wake up without an alarm clock. And after those 2 weeks, you're going to start noticing how much sleep your body actually needs to naturally wake up and do all these things. But yeah, being woke, I think, is spotting the little things which aren't obvious. Well, even thinking about that we're gonna have effects on sleeping or like not sleeping is already something more than some other person, because you have to know what you don't know. Again, this is how I started our first episode, I think, didn't I? It's like, I usually don't know what I don't know, so that's why I want to learn some things which I don't know, just so I could learn them. And that's being more aware of the things you don't know. That's basically my goal, I guess, with this thing, is to learn more things which I don't yet know that they exist. because they do.
Yeah.
And usually you're not aware that they exist. But making yourself aware that they exist, but you don't know what they are, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't know that you don't know what you don't know.
Well, sort of. You don't know what is out there, but you know that you don't know what is out there.
You know what you don't know already. Because
No.
there's already when you
No,
learn
no,
something new, right? You
you
open
know
up all
that-
these avenues that you don't know something.
Yeah.
But there's still these other avenues that you don't know about that lead into things that you don't know about.
Yeah. But see, the start of everything is learning that there's many things that you don't know about.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if you wouldn't even consider that these things exist, and you would be blissfully ignoring everything, as you said, well,
Yeah.
ignorance.
It's like believing yourself to already be a master.
Yeah.
You should never do that. Anyone who believes himself to be intelligent, you should always remember, should always be humble. You are always a student, because once you reach that mastery, you've reached a stagnation point where your learning ability drops significantly.
Yeah.
Always believe yourself to be a beginner to your art.
Because otherwise, you're going to experience the Dunning-Kruger effect. Do you know what that is?
No idea.
Such a good effect. It's apparently a cognitive bias in which people mistakenly assess their cognitive ability as greater than it is. So, Dunning-Kruger effect, and, well, it's just an official name on
Right.
you thinking higher of yourself
Yeah.
than you actually
I
are.
think I've heard of that.
Yeah. And then there's basically a graph of the mastery of the skill and of how much you think you know. So and it crosses. If you're just starting at something,
Yeah.
you're usually way assessing yourself as way bigger of an expert that you actually
Yeah.
are.
I mean, it's easy to watch someone who's doing it at a master level already, but once you're doing it, it's very difficult. So,
Yeah.
like, for example, you look at someone playing piano.
Mm-hmm.
They're just tapping on keys, right?
Exactly.
In the formation.
Exactly.
But once you get into nuances,
Oh,
there's
man.
these, there's the speed, there's these chords you have to do. There's different styles. You could even play one song, right?
Yeah, there's notes, and then after you learn all that, and you can perform every single classical music piece ever with just seeing the notes. So you put the notes in front of you, you play it, and you're a master. There's another level of down there, the jazz and the jazz harmonies and level of jazz harmonies.
It doesn't stop at
Improvisation.
composed music.
It never stops.
It doesn't
Yeah.
stop at
Never
composed. You also go
stops.
into improv,
Yeah, improv is like
And it goes
Jamming.
deeper.
synchronization with
deeper.
other instruments.
Yeah.
insane.
And it's just wow. But people when they get their first instrument, they for sure learn 3 chords. And because most of the pop songs are usually written on these 3 chords, they assume they can play every single song. And yes, they can. And in their
Alright.
friend group,
All right, let's
See-
refocus this. What was it? What the long-term effects of sleep? Sleep deprivation.
I think that's what they are.
I
Me going on a tangent and like talking about
Going
complete-
delirious.
Yeah, a completely different topic because, well, long-term sleep deprivation effects. You forgetting some things, or
So why we sleep is very important, because these random firings, like I said, REM sleep, you're strengthening these connections in your brain. You're strengthening these wirings you already have. So what a memory is actually a pattern of these nerves firing in a certain pattern, in a certain connection circuit that leads into this formation of a memory, right? That's the basics of it. Let's not get into that. So if you don't strengthen them, they're gonna weaken over time, because your brain is always gonna keep changing, because you're experiencing new things all the time, and especially if you're growing, there's more stuff being added. Perhaps these nerves need something to connect to, and that's why some details can change over time. You don't remember everything perfectly, but the more sleep you get about it, the more you recall it, the better your memory will be.
I mean, you do need good sleep for like memory reasons, for your
Yeah.
immune system,
Yeah.
for regeneration, which these are key things, but you do not see them like after sleeping 3 hours. You just feel like, you know, you're completely falling apart. Although sometimes you do, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
I've actually just gotten a controversial idea, a thought that just entered my head. So, usually they say sleep on it. Have you guys heard this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saying sleep on it.
Yeah.
Learn something, or I have actually experienced stuff like that. Is everyone's sleeping, and I want to learn something on a guitar, and I can't just like get out the guitar and start jamming. But I watch at least 3 videos on how to play that, and I visualize in my head
Yeah.
how am I gonna play it at night before sleep, and I fall asleep. In the morning, I can play it, dude. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I can recall everything just because I had a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
Do you think that when you don't get a sufficient amount of sleep that night, not your memory in general deteriorates, but exactly these things that you learned that day or something like that?
Your motor skills.
Well, say I was to learn, say we were both to learn a poem,
Yeah.
and I was to sleep 3 hours and you were to sleep a full 8 hours. After a year, you may recall the poem better. But does this count as the long-term effect for not sleeping properly?
It's less that and more nerve damage. Because I think this is very important for most university students. Like until like the age of maybe 27, even up to 30, your brain hasn't stopped growing yet. And if you don't strengthen and you don't get enough sleep, like your brain isn't going to develop properly. So you're screwing yourself over in the long term. And
so it's not that one time poem which I wouldn't remember. I would literally be damaging
it's less about that and it's more about your general nerve
the
health.
general.
Yes.
So that's
and
even
again
worse.
with your guitar thing, yeah, I've had the same effect. I've I couldn't whistle the day before and I slept well and I could whistle after, right? That's how I learned how to whistle. I just slept on it.
Mhm.
It's pretty crazy. But yeah, I mean, your nerves aren't just limited to your brain, it's also to your body. That's why a lot of athletes spend all their time sleeping, eating, and working out, right? They're always doing something beneficial
Yeah.
to their body. That's why you don't get sleep deprived athletes. Right?
Really? Huh.
Sleep is an important part of the routine because especially for muscle growth. I mean, sure, you can grow when you're awake, but it's just you get so much more out of your body when you're sleeping. And again, with the immune system thing, yes, you do produce more T cells. They move around your body much more efficiently when you are sleeping. There's certain hormones you can only excrete when you're sleeping as well. So, yeah.
do you remember the thing you tried, like sleeping for 20, 30 minutes, was it? What's it called?
Polyphasic sleep.
Yeah, that.
You guys heard about
Romantic?
polyphasic sleep?
Yes. And it's really bad for you in the long run. It's like when you talk about sleeping 3 hours a night, for a while, but this is like sleeping 20 minutes for 5 times, 6 times?
So Patch, do you
Yeah.
know power napping?
Yeah. So,
Power napping usually helps you refresh yourself.
Yeah.
You're just feeling, and I've had these situations where I need to do something, I need to accomplish a certain task, and there's like a big assignment, whatever, waiting for me, and I just can't focus. I go and have like a 15-20 minute nap,
yeah.
wake up refreshed, full of energy, let's go, let's tackle it, and I go through it. So there are people who are claiming that polyphasic sleep is something that people used to do back in the day because they found some resources where they were talking about the second sleep or something. Well, and polyphasic sleep doesn't have to be as extreme as well. Kornelija said about this is the Uberman method, because it's like, I think you sleep for 20 minutes every few hours, something like that. Just so in theory, it sounds nice because, again, coming back to the power nap, you feel refreshed after that 20 minutes. So if you can keep refreshing yourself every few hours for that 20 minutes, again, you're going to feel good, sort of.
Yeah.
But then again, long-term sleep effects and stuff.
Yeah, I've also heard of this. I mean, why it works is this power napping thing. It does help you. It's like the first stage of sleeping, right? You get this 20-minute thing in. It is worth it. It is worth it. It works. But it's the nerves that don't get that rest they need, right? You don't go through the full healing process. Sleep isn't a charge bar. It's a cycle, right? Yeah, approximately 90 minutes. But yeah,
you're right. But polyphasic sleep itself, so it doesn't have to be as bad as, again, this Uberman method, where the most usual polyphasic sleep is just 2 phases, as in you get a 5 hours sleep at night, and then you get at least like a 3-hour sleep in the afternoon, or 2 hours sleep.
Yeah, that's what a lot of university students do as well.
So you basically bunch it and then make it still sum up to 8 hours, but not
but
in one go, basically.
I think the theory with that is people get more used to it, and they try to get into REM sleep faster, and it does work to a degree, but of course it's not as effective. And since it is a cycle thing, it's not that you're getting into this REM thing faster.
Yeah,
you're getting more of it. Yes, it is fast. Well, actually, scrap that. I'm saying this wrong. You do get into it faster, but it's not as effective because it's not as deep. There's different levels of REM sleep.
See, that's why I'm asking. Do you think that if you get a session of 8 hours, so you sleep for 8 hours, you go through all the cycles, it's going to be more efficient than having, let's say, 5 and 3 hours? Or is that also going to have the same amount of, REM and the healthy sleep or whatever?
I haven't looked into this.
No idea.
But let's be simple about it. This is how our bodies were designed to be, because we were never nocturnal. Right?
Exactly.
We go up with the sun, we go down with the sun, right?
Yeah.
I feel like we try to make our productivity like the peak, So that's why we find all these ways to like sleep 3 hours and then 3 hours again. And it's like we're trying to make excuses for being more productive when actually we're kind of messing up our biological clocks and our immune systems. Because at the end of the day, I think it might work because your body is capable of adapting to many things. Like, it might just as well adapt to this cycle of always sleeping like 5 hours and then 3 hours.
Yeah.
But in the long run, I kind of feel like there's this still...
It's not sustainable.
Yeah, well, there has to be something. Uberman method, again, if you remember polyphasic sleep, or basically sleeping. Well, okay, I'm pretty sure it's 20 minutes. Don't quote me on that. But it's like 6 times a day, you sleep for a certain period of time. It's not much. People say that in order for you to achieve that, you first have to spend at least 37 hours not sleeping. Or is it like 40? Wow. So for the first night, you have to crash yourself. And then just the first 3 days or a week is going to be the worst for you. And then you start like getting into the rhythm.
That is interesting. There has been a study on sleep deprivation, and there's something called microsleeps near the end. So they're basically trying to test if you can die if you don't get enough sleep, or see what happens if you go all the way and you don't sleep for a very long time.
I think I've heard some torturing methods where you just had a guy and did not allow him to sleep, just like kept slapping him or like
water dripping on his head. Yeah,
make him not sleep. He still fall asleep somehow. No?
Yes. This is what microsleep. So near the end, like with all the shivers and all the crazy jerking movements, and you get these tiny little, like, you close your eyes for a second, you fall asleep, and then you wake up again. You can't stop yourself without having these microsleeps. You can't die. You can't stop yourself forever from sleeping. So I think that might tie into this Uberman method thing, because like
it still
'Cause
allows you
it's
to
straight
rest.
into REM. It allows you into some rest.
Yeah.
It is very efficient into getting into that sleep, but is it good sleep?
Again, yeah.
Isn't it horrible that you have to, first of all, sleep deprive yourself in order to achieve the cycle? Like, I feel like any sleep after, like, 48 hours of not sleeping would be good. And then those, like, little bursts of energy you get from 20-minute naps would be, like, the peak of everything you've felt in the past 48 hours or so. You know?
That's probably why they do it.
So that's
idea.
probably the only reason
They've messed up their sense of perception, perhaps.
Yeah.
But we can't personally judge because we've never really seen anyone
Yeah.
or done it.
Never tried it
Yeah.
extremely improperly, and I myself,
But,
I've
you know,
never done it like properly.
This kind of stuff is being discredited already, so.
It was too hard on myself.
I'm glad I talked you out of it.
Don't want to. Because it's crazy and extreme.
I mean, come on. You sleep like 8 hours a day, right? Let's say, best. 8 hours a day. And you sleep 7 days a week and like 4 months, 4 weeks a month. It just adds up. And it sounds like it's not productive. And we want to make it like shorter so we can be more productive. But at the end of the day, when we make it shorter, our productivity actually like decreases.
Yeah.
And we think we're more productive when at the end of the day, when you actually slept, like, instead of 6 hours, you would sleep 9 hours. It would be a lot more productive in a shorter period of time.
Would be way faster
Yeah.
to accomplish a certain task.
I mean,
because,
a lot of people try to, say that, sleep is bad because it's eating so much time. It's like a third of your life you spent sleeping,
It's
doing
sad,
nothing.
though.
Yeah,
You could have
exactly.
been, binging, working or something, right? You look at the time scale and then you think like, hey, what have I been doing with this time? I've been doing nothing. No,
Yeah.
it's because it's during the sleep. It's not nothing. You're strengthening your memories. You're strengthening your body. It's not. Your body isn't perfect. You need time for maintenance.
Yeah.
You think yourself, okay, old age. It seems a bit off topic. Old age. No one dies of old age. It's because some part of you just falls apart because it hasn't been maintained. You think yourself like a car.
Yeah.
There isn't some. A car doesn't break because
there's
it's
no
just
such
too
thing.
old.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a car broke. Well, either its tire exploded.
Yeah.
Wheel just came
There's
off.
just one part that can't be fixed. It's a physical problem.
Yeah. When you
Sleep
look at it,
prevents
usually
this.
I think it's strokes, like heart disease, or usually something with the heart or blood flow, like old people, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, exactly. And like some people who like turn their heads too quickly and like their veins burst. Something like this has happened before. I mean, it because they're that old, or maybe they have some defect since birth, and it's really unfortunate because if you don't spend your time sleeping now, later you're not going to be able to fix it because you're still in this growth period. And even after your growth period, you still this maintenance period. You can still grow as well. It's not that it's stopped. Even if you're 60, you can still grow muscle. You can still go at it. It's just not as effective as the others, but you're growing.
You need to find your methods, though.
It doesn't mean that you should stop. It's more so that you should fight because you don't want to lose that last bit.
Yeah.
Is that you're getting this last bit and you're maximizing what you have now. It's not too late to start. Live more. Fight against old age. Why would you want to be, why would you want your body to be old? You could be proud that you are old, that you have this seniority, that you have this experience.
But you're healthy.
Yes.
Because you've been looking after yourself.
It means even more so much that you have this health to you.
Good, beautiful, motivational words.
I know, right? I was just gonna say that.
But it's so true.
It is.
And everything starts from, well, I don't want to say everything starts from sleep. Everything starts from being mindful about your actions damaging your body. So again, thinking about our first episode, which is keto diet. So eating crap, not sleeping well, drinking crap, exercising incorrectly, not doing warm-ups before. Just every single thing, I think, adds up. And then when you're old,
I mean, come on. Usually it's not that we sleep less because we want to. It's usually because the surroundings make us. It's our poor time management. It's like, it's not that we want to sleep less, you know? I don't think we give enough credit for sleep because we don't think about the long-term effects because it's just not comfortable for us to think about it, you know? And just the fact that, you know, while you are mindful that it will be good in the long run, we put off things like that, like eating sugar and stuff, you know? We think, okay, one bite doesn't count. And like one night of sleep, 6 hours does not count, like 5 hours. But it does add up. And when we think about it, that's our biggest problem. It's not that we're not being mindful or anything. It's not that we're not analyzing it. It's that we're not willing to change.
Yeah. But that's why we're here, to inspire action.
Inspirational speeches.
Yeah, well, even for ourselves, I want to inspire action and start doing the things I'm preaching.
Yeah, I think we usually preach too much. Like, we're preaching, like, sleep more. But at the end of the day, today, both of us are sleep deprived.
Yeah. Well, I'm feeling really bad, but then I look at my sleep tracker. It says, well, you slept for 7 hours. Well, actually, I didn't.
I get my sleep. I do what I preach. It's a good, healthy, scientifically backed way to get more sleep. You can be lazy. You can, you can't call yourself lazy because of it. You are doing the right thing.
Yeah,
it's a valid, not even excuse. It's a good reason that you should stop what you're doing and get some sleep.
Yeah, don't sleep 12 hours. Don't sleep 13 hours.
Yeah, that's maybe a bit excessive.
But to get those full cycles that are required, so it's usually around 8 hours, do that. Just take care of your body. And this is also a message to myself. Try to find more time for sleeping as opposed to, oh, you know, I have to finish this assignment, finish this, that. Well, when you can schedule it differently and just finish it tomorrow morning,
you'll work faster after you sleep.
Yeah, exactly. Just realizing that you're more, you know, productive.
Yeah. Some people try and enhance their performance by, let's say, coffee and caffeine.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I don't really drink coffee. I try to avoid it. I like tea, but then when I look at the contents of caffeine and like green tea, I stopped drinking black tea. I didn't drink much black tea, but it's like, oh, I'm drinking black tea, and I'm thinking that, oh, so cool, I'm avoiding coffee. But then you look at the caffeine, and then, black tea almost has half of the caffeine. So if I drink 2 cups of black tea, I already have a cup of coffee, even though I've never had proper black coffee. You know, like, oh, okay.
I mean, it's hilarious because I think I have a caffeine addiction, if we're being honest. It's not intentional, but it's just something that happens because you think you've gotten a bad sleep, you know? And you think, oh, caffeine is definitely going to fix it. But in the long run, you don't feel the effects anymore. And you feel like you're hooked and you need more. I was always so skeptical about like drinking an energy drink. And I checked how much caffeine it has. And I was surprised that I consume more caffeine like during a day without drinking that energy drink. Just like, energy drink is like, it just sounds scary to me, but at the end of the day, like, I consume all that stuff that's on there without like drinking the can. So I mean, it's definitely bad for you. It's bad for you to be hooked on something that when it's like once in a while, it might have an effect and it might be better. And there was, I don't know what, I forgot, there was something that like coffee, small amounts of black coffee helps with something. I forgot what it is.
Wow.
I think what heart diseases, like it reduces like risks of heart disease. Although don't quote me on this, please.
So, well, everyone tries to justify their stuff. They say wine is good. They say alcohol is good. They say this and that.
True.
And it's usually either someone's trying to justify themselves or there are actual studies done which do help. But
if you isolate anything and test it against everything, then of course you're gonna find something.
Yeah.
What's that bias thing again? Selective bias.
Confirmation bias.
The confirmation bias.
And even for a scientist, yes, there are things you can leave out, quote unquote, extraneous or out of this, out of the graph results. You think it's an outlier. Yeah, that's the word I was thinking for. You think it's an outlier, so you can remove it. That's what a lot of scientists do. And like, if they're not if they don't find their research conclusive, then they can't really publish it and get money off it, because no one wants to buy a failed paper.
Oh.
Yeah.
And there's so many fake papers out there.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, this is why there's a community. They're trying to break what's wrong. It's like that. What the vaccines cause autism?
Oh
paper.
my God, this is so bad.
I mean, they researched it on like mice that are prone to genetic disease, and they're already prone to autism and cancer anyways, and they just uses like 6 mice or something. I don't remember now. But
Dude, we have to
everyone flamed on it.
We have to talk about this for sure next episode.
Yeah.
Especially controversies, because I've had personal experience with people when I was in the States, and I made this, what sounds a stupid, Alex Jones soundboard.
That's right.
I made it because I find it funny.
Yeah.
Because he says quotes like, "Were you at the kitchen table hearing about cyborgs when you were 8?" I'm like, well, that's funny. I just made a soundboard out of that. But they were like, why would you do that? Because you're spreading his message and people believe in it.
Yeah.
Sandy Hook and stuff like that.
That's the problem.
They go in there, shoot that. I've heard so many Americans, especially, I'm not going to vaccinate my kid because he's going to get autism.
Confirmation bias.
People believe that. See, that's the thing. We should talk about controversies and how we should rule things like that out and just clear out the papers which aren't well wrong, basically.
See, this is the thing about free speech in America. You can spread medical advice even though you're not a trained medical professional. And what a lot of these people do is that they kind of cheat the legal system, and they get these purchased licenses that are for dubiously medical things, but they're not real doctors, right? Or if they've done any training, it's, by the family or on the side, somebody bought it, whatever.
It's a big topic, and I think we're gonna have to tackle it next week on the Inside Scoop. You okay with that?
That's all the time we have.
Why are you looking at me? I'm here for one show.
Well, you're our guest, but we may as well, I don't know, do it live next time, Just get... I think we could also invite
we could just do
guests.
this online as well, right?
Online,
Get
exactly.
someone in.
So, thank you guys for today's discussion about sleep. I think we're going to be going back home, sleeping properly, hopefully. We'll see again. I will have a shift tomorrow, which is going to end at 5 a.m. Means, when will I get that 8-hour sleep?
Never.
Well, never. Exactly. Because I have a lecture, I think, after that shift.
That's what I said. Sometimes life just gets on you, but it's like every day just life.
Life.
It just happens.
That's why we're trying to get woke and be mindful about everything like that. Because you can start thinking about things of like saying no to things, like if you start feeling that you're not gonna have a sufficient amount of sleep, you may as well say no to the project, or unless it's really important, unless like university work. Well, anyway, you can schedule it out somehow else, because I've had people yesterday. So we had Taekwondo yesterday. Were you in Taekwondo yesterday?
I wasn't there yesterday.
You wasn't there. He wasn't there, see? And Mr. I'm not going to call names, but I've had people who I say, hey, are you going to... No, I'm so late. This assignment, the deadline is in 2 hours. I'm like, what? Why? I don't know. It's like,
Time management.
Yeah, I finished it last week. I was like, it was up to him. And not to say that he was like having way more assignments than me, because like we're in the same class, but I don't know. It's just time management.
Yeah.
And if you can time manage well, you're not gonna have to pull these all-nighters and have to lose the sleep quality and the work quality, because when your sleep quality is bad, your work quality is bad, and then next time you wake up, your work quality is bad, thus you don't sleep more because you need more time to accomplish a task, and this cycle just continues. Man, should we end on this?
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
For all the listeners, get some sleep.
Get some sleep. The Inside Scoop will be on next week. You can find us on Spotify. We have a website that is mariusurbelis.com. That is mariusurbelis.com/scoop. You can find all the ways to listen, subscribe, whatever. Spotify, hopefully Google Podcasts, because we already have a notice saying Google Podcasts is having our show on, but when you click on the link, it's not there yet. I think we also have Breaker. We also have a couple of other platforms, Pocket Cast. Hopefully we're going to be published on Apple Podcast, Overcast, and we currently have Radio Public, already have our show on there. So, yep, Inside Scoop is getting bigger.
Scooping
more every time, and
take a bigger chunk.
Take a bigger chunk of that internet listeners and everything.
And that deep radio voice.
Oh, Patch.
Anyways,
well,
any message? Remember, guys, sleep isn't a charge bar. It's a cycle. Go through with it. All right? Thanks for tuning in, guys. Sleep well this time.